Rated M for mature.
Don't let your kids watch it!
Hey there, Artie!
Okay, it's not a chapter end, it's the intermission. Well, I think we'll try to stream until the next, we get tips place, and then we'll probably stop. The informant named Sato-san had me get into his car before he set off. He favored narrow roads and made numerous short left turns.
左折法による尾行確認ですか?
詳しいな。
Checking to see if we were being tailed by making left turns was a rather classic technique. If it was just a single pursuer, you could confirm it that way. But if you were being tailed as a team, this archaic method wouldn't let you shake them. Of course, doing it anyway was better than not.
赤坂君が何者かは旦那から何も聞いてないんだが、やっぱり警察関係かい？尾行確認に詳しいなんて、あとは探偵者くらいしか思いつかねえね。
言わなければならないものでないなら、拒否したい質問ですね。
やれやれ。麻雀やってからすっかり雰囲気が大人びちまったな。会った時のあのおどおどしたあんたはどこ行っちゃったんだよ。
Because you guys stopped talking about going to strip clubs and stuff, that's why. I smiled wryly. Looking back now, I had to be a little grateful for being made to play mahjong. Thanks to that, I was able to relieve some tension. Eventually, Sato-san, confirming that there were no cars following us, slipped outside the city. We were on a pitch-black country road, unable to see anything besides the lights outside. The only things I were able to hear were the hum of the car's air conditioning and the chirping of insects and frogs.
旦那からひなみ沢村については多少のことは聞いてんだろう？
御三家という旧家による支配や、現在は園崎家が一党独裁をしているとか、そういう。
そこまで知ってるならくだらない前置きは省略していいな。
Thank you. No need to retread old ground.
では、お願いします。犬飼大臣の孫の誘拐に、鬼ヶ淵死守同盟が関与しているか否か。
Oh, he's just openly saying that happened. Sato-san checked the rearview mirror one more time to confirm there wasn't anyone behind us before speaking.
昨夜、園崎本家で親族会議が開かれたそうだ。親族会議ってのは旦那から聞いてるか？
Actually, if we change up the music... Oh, these are all pretty good songs. I'll go with this. I think this one is the most interesting.
いえ。
普通に親族会議って言ったら、まあ親戚が集まってお茶でも飲むようなもんだよな。
Okay.
だが、園崎本家の親族会議っていうのは、
Hey, we just kidnapped this kid. What are we doing with him? A family council held by the Sonozaki main house. That would be a meeting between those who truly controlled Hinamizawa village. They wouldn't be talking about private family matters. It would be about the village as a whole. About organizing activities against the dam project. Among other things, everything would be decided there. In reality, they were deciding the fate of the village. Oh, there she is! At the head of the meeting was Oryo Sonozaki. No, I don't want to change the censorship levels. I want to change the sprites. More or less called Empress Sonozaki, as the ultimate decision-maker of the clan, she was to be feared and respected. Infirm with old age, she was often unable to stand on her own, but her words carried enough weight to sway the fate of the village. It seemed that lately she had grown weak, and on days when she wasn't feeling well, remained bedridden. Family councils that occurred while she wasn't feeling well took place with her on the floor. In the middle of a dignified Japanese-style room, still in a futon, only the upper half of her body sitting upright, a stern look on her face. That was Oryo Sonozaki. Sitting next to her was her heir, Mion Sonozaki. She was still young. No, young wasn't quite the right word. She was a girl who remained childish. Her role was merely to sit beside Oryo Sonozaki, sometimes responding to her requests. However, she was the only one deemed worthy to succeed Oryo. She had the same hawkish eyes, enough to give pause to anybody who so much as looked at them. Much was expected of her in the future, this granddaughter of the Sonozaki's leader. And also on either side of her sat several other important members of the remaining three families, the Kimiyoshi family and the Furude family. First on the list for the Kimiyoshi family was of course the mayor of Hinamizawa village, Kichiro Kimiyoshi. And lined up beside him were several more of his direct relatives. Opposite to them sat the other of the three families, the Furude family. Show me Rika's parrots! The Furude family was only comprised of the family of a Shinto priest, so the only ones sitting there were said priest, his wife, and their daughter Rika. Rika was doted on by many of the older folks in the village, and it seemed that Oryo was no exception. While the stress from just attending a family council was said to be enough to shorten your lifespan by 3 days, it seemed like Rika was the only one exempt from that. No matter how charged the atmosphere was around her, she paid it no mind, instead humming along as she doodled in a sketchbook. In fact, the night before, lying on her stomach while humming and doodling, she nonchalantly tucked her legs into Oryo's futon like it was a kotatsu. All this was the three families. And all around the room, lined row upon row, were relatives of the Sonozaki family. The only ones who were afforded cushions to sit on were direct relatives. The others were left to sit in the seiza position directly on the tatami mats. With Empress Sonozaki enshrined at their center, they were almost like a giant snake coiled around the room. It was decided that everybody would sit in order of their rank. The number of people from the Sonozaki family was overwhelming. The fact that the Sonozaki family held so many seats at a meeting where everything pertaining to the village was decided made determining where the balance of power was held in the three families as clear as day. The number of members in attendance from each of the families directly reflected how much influence they had in ruling Hinamizawa.
その会議で何が話されたんですか？
Sato-san, after remaining silent for a while, quietly began to speak.
マスコミ関係に支払ってる謝礼金の額が大きいんじゃないかい？
You could never overpay the media to get good coverage, right? Breaking the long moment of silence was the head of the Kimiyoshi family, Kichiro Kimiyoshi. The Onigafuchi Guardians wasn't a business. They were nothing more than a private organization pushing for the cancellation of the Hinamizawa Dam project, with no reliable source of income. Fundraising had always been a problem. When they first started operating, they had managed to collect a sizable amount of funds through donations, but as the conflict dragged on, that amount was steadily declining.
石を投げるだけが全ての時代じゃないさ。マスコミの力も侮れないのは重々承知しているし、今後もその力を借りたいのは同じ
The
さ。
media is extremely powerful. The expressions of the people related to the Sonozaki family were sullen. As the one who suggested that they should borrow that power was the family head, Oryo Sonozaki. The battle wasn't just about a force of arms. In this civilized age, there were civilized methods of fighting. Oryo suggested that, creating a strategy incorporating the mass media. Orio's foresight was spot on, and the effects of that plan, while at first unclear, slowly began to manifest. If the physical confrontation at the construction site was meant to delay progress on the dam by even 1 day, then the propaganda war using the media was aimed at attacking the dam project itself. At first, there were those who had doubts about that strategy, but there was nobody now who called those results into question. But in order to maintain those media ties, a colossal amount of money was required. As long as the amount of funds they had was abundant, things would turn out fine. It couldn't be argued that it was a massive expense, but the results spoke for themselves. But, with the conflict continuing to drag on, the circumstances had changed. The head of the Sonozaki family, no, the one who sat at the pinnacle of the Hinamizawa's three families, Oryo, had suggested the idea herself, so it was already untouchable, and continued to be allowed to drain from the budget. Nobody acknowledged that it should be so allowed, but nobody could say anything. That was the price of dealing with the mass media.
どう思う？お嬢さん。
The only person who could object to a plan proposed by the head of the Sonozaki household herself was probably Mayor Kimiyoshi. Oryo, with a hard-to-define expression on her face, as if she had severed herself from the fetters of mortal emotion, simply listened quietly to Kimiyoshi's words. But really, it was hard to tell if she was listening quietly or didn't even have the intention of listening at all.
去年機関士の値上げの理解を得るのにも随分苦労したじゃない。一度だけってことで理解を得て、また今年もってわけにはいかないよ。ねえ、古手さん。
The mayor looked to the priest and his wife from the Furude family for affirmation. The priest gave a vague expression, avoiding a prompt response. The priest doesn't even have an expression because he doesn't exist. But his wife gave her answer without a second thought.
そうですね。機関士代は特に貧しい家には大きな負担になっています。
Rika's mom sounds like every single, visual novel mom ever.
みんな自分たちの村のためだからと耐えていますが、 これ以上の値上げはやめた方がいいでしょうね。
Like, she sounds like Keiichi's mom. She sounds like Yumiko's mom. She sounds like, I think, Sachi's mom. It's like it's just all moms voiced by one person. The bulletin was, as its name implied, a bulletin published by the Onikafuji Guardians. It outlined the Alliance's activities, ideals, and resolve, but you couldn't deny the contents were rather piecemeal. That bulletin's main goal wasn't to inform people, but rather was something to sell to businesses and people living in the village or connected to it, and using those sales to collect funds. In other words, it had become something of a tax. Of course, it didn't have to be said that this was one of the main sources of income for the Onikafuji Guardians. Originally, purchase was supposed to be voluntary, but in Hinamizawa it had silently become the opposite. In the neighboring towns as well, it seemed that many businesses were buying copies just to avoid butting heads of the Alliance. The priest whispered to his wife not to say anything unnecessary, but that was struck down decidedly with a cold glare. Cowering from that glare, the priest shut his mouth. Oh, he seems kind of like a himbo, huh? The priest's wife always held the power in their relationship. Oh, forever. That was because she was the one who carried the Furude bloodline. Oh, is that so? The priest merely married into the family. He was nothing more than somebody who adopted the name just to join the free families. He should have been able to find a spot fairly high up in the hierarchy of things, but the lack of authority in his voice meant that he still had not gained any favor. Oh, that's it. Casting a backwards glance at her rather disparate parents, Rika continued to doodle whimsically without paying them any mind. Signaled by a look from Oreo, Mion brought the ear closer to her grandmother. There, something was said to her in a quiet voice. After responding with a couple of questions, and with a nod from Oreo, Mion looked around the room and conveyed her grandmother's words.
機関士の値上げもやむを得ません。
Kimiyoshi made a face like he had just bit into something unpleasant, but that expression quickly disappeared like it had never happened at all.
だけどミオンちゃん、君だって分かってると思うけど、機関士の負担は決して軽いものじゃない。ひなみ沢のすべての人間にかかる重みなんだ。
It's true.
あんまり負担をかけすぎれば内部から崩れることだって。
He seems like a decent guy.
内部から崩れるのは誰ですか？
どれって別にそういう意味じゃ。
Alright, Mion.
最初に崩れるのは誰かと聞いています。
Probably the first person who couldn't afford it. Being cross-examined by a girl who still had fragments of childishness remaining within her, the words stuck in Kimiyoshi's throat as he sunk into silence. Mion repeated her question once more, looking around the crowded room. Everybody refrained from making eye contact to avoid being pierced by her gaze. The words she had spoken were unarguably said in proxy for Oreo. That's why when Mion spoke them, they carried the same weight. But the look in her eyes was different. Like Oreo's, they had a hawkish gaze, strong enough that anybody looking upon them would freeze in their tracks and yield. Good night, DX. Thanks for joining, and have a great sleep. I will not be continuing the stream for very much longer, until we get to the next to be continued. But that gaze was without question one that belonged to Mion herself. As Mion would eventually inherit everything from Oreo, the day when she would stand up as a young and capable leader in her own right would come. Nobody wanted to believe otherwise for even a minute. That's why nobody even thought of Mion as just being some sort of little kid.
君吉さん、機関士の値上げごときでは誰の決意も崩れませんよ。
Kimiyoshi, while grumbling a little bit, made a gesture as if to say he had no objection.
マスコミ関係への出費は継続とします。その出費がさらに圧迫となるようなら、機関士の値上げもやむを得ない。
Mion had rendered her judgment. Everybody bowed their heads, silently listening to her words.
園崎家当主代行、園崎美音です。我が名において以上決定し、決定の効力は即日発行されるものとします。異議はこれを認めず、抵抗ある場合は実力をもって排除します。
Jeez. The formal decree was read aloud, indicating her judgment. There would be no retrial, but there was a certain authority behind those words that even a courthouse couldn't compare to. If she was a judge, she would have banged her gavel, signaling that the matter was settled. Mion pulled out a large bell from inside her clothes and rang it. Everybody present could only prostrate themselves before the harsh sound of the bell.
なんと
This is sounding more like a cult.
大時代的な親族会議ですね。
あんたみたいな若いもんにゃ ちょっと信じられないだろうけどね。こういう古い土地にはこんなのが未だ根強く残ってるもんさ。
It was exactly as Uisi had said. The old system of the three families had vanished, and now the Sonozaki family was running things by themselves. On top of that, their rule was borderline despotic.
会議はそれで終わりですか？
いや、まだ続く。先を続けるよ。
Eventually, after the ringing of the bell ceased, there was a deafening silence. Within all of that, a lone man shuffled closer to Mion and whispered something in her ear. Mion asked several questions quietly in response. When she was satisfied, she motioned for the man to leave. The man who talked to Mion was a member of the gang that her father was the leader of. Oh, that's right, isn't her dad Yakuza? That organization had the entire area of Shishibone under its control, so it was quite well known even here. Of course, this was talking about the criminal underworld. Yeah, so it's not just like anybody would know. But just showing a patch with the gang symbol on it was enough to resolve any disputes in the neighborhood. Mion's biological father, to Oryo, was her daughter's husband. The power of that man's gain was the driving force that controlled the dark underbelly of the Onikafuchi Guardians. And so that man, from his position as the next in line to control the three families, continued to coerce everybody around him with his unconventional presence. Yeah, so this is why her dad's Yakuza. Mion exchanged a look with her father. Was it okay for her to tell what she had just been heard directly to Oryo? It looked like she was asking him that question. Her father gently but firmly nodded in his response. Mion also nodded, then sidled up to Oryo and informed her of something. Eventually, Mion finished conveying her message, separated herself from Oryo, and fixed her posture, waiting for Oryo to signal her response. It wasn't often that Oryo showed any emotion. That's why, when she started to laugh quietly, a vague sense of uneasiness crept over everybody in the room.
そら、難儀なこともあったものよの。
Oryo was laughing so happily that Kimiyoshi had to hesitantly ask,
どうしたんだい、お嬢さん。
我らにとって土地が母なら、この度のダムの騒ぎは、母の命を脅かされる騒ぎっちゅうことだろうな。
Kimiyoshi, unable to comprehend the meaning of her words, looked confused. Oryo, with a wide grin on her face, turned towards everybody and addressed them in a clarion voice.
ダムの親玉の大臣がの、孫さらわれちまって、右往左往しとるっちゅう話だ。
It's an interesting way of, revealing that.
これでおあいこだの。
バカな。
Information on the kidnapping of Minister Inkari's grandson shouldn't have leaked from anywhere. How did they know? Even we didn't know about the kidnapping incident. Exactly how did an antiquated household so far away from Tokyo come to know of it? It was a tranquil place, but I couldn't help but have an uneasy feeling about Hinamizawa Village. At some point, I had mentally filed this place away as unrelated to the incident at hand. That mental paperwork had just blown away in the wind.
どうして鬼ヶ淵主導名が知っているんだ。
Sato-san, unable to come up with an answer, fell into silence.
すみません。続きをお願いします。
なあ。
犬飼建設大臣のお孫さんがさらわれた。お嬢さん、それは本当かい？
The mayor of an incident was nowhere to be seen in the newspapers or on TV. But in Hinamizawa, there was nothing strange about Oryo knowing about something that the rest of the world didn't.
我らの痛みは母を失う痛みじゃの。それに値するとは思わんが、孫を失う痛み。少しは答えるといいんだがの。
Okay, so that's pretty much a confession.
なあ。
The last question wasn't addressed to anybody in particular. It was as if she was looking for consensus.
だが、土地と人様の子供ではわけが違う。
True.
隠すのは構わんが、怪我だけは。
Okay, yep, so they are behind it.
こにゃ何の罪もね。
Well, that's surprisingly decent of you, Oryo.
大事にしたれな。
それはつまり 鬼ヶ淵死守同盟が
They
誘
were.
拐事件に関与している。
必ずしもそうとは言えないな。
Sounds pretty much like a confession.
どうして当主であるお涼がこれほどまではっきりと誘拐した孫の処遇について指示を出しているのに。
兄さん、これはね、園崎家のいつものことなんだよ。
They always kidnap kids.
いつものこと？それはどういう意味です？
Let's say there was a particular problem. One that wasn't exactly favorable for the Sonozaki family. If Oreo shows concern over that particular problem, hearing that, somebody who attended the family council would be helpful. As a result, Oreo's wish would be granted. However, neither Oreo or anybody else would know who actually did it. With this kind of clever little ploy, the Sonozaki family was able to manipulate events, even though they had their hands laid out on the table.
では親族会議に出
That
席
still
してい
means
た
that
誰か
somebody
が
part
犯
of
人ということ
the
ですか？
Guardians is responsible.
あるいはそもそも犯人なんかいない可能性だってあるよな。俺自身、その万座の一同の中に誘拐犯がいるって確
No,
信を
but
持
the
ってるわけじゃない。
kid is kidnapped and being held there, so clearly somebody was involved with that.
ただ、自分の意見を述べただけさ。
It was an odd and unpleasantly secretive way of doing things. Were they involved or weren't they? I couldn't see beyond the veil. This much, however, I could say with certainty. This kidnapping was an ironclad secret. No matter how high a position somebody was in, even they wouldn't know about it. If there was somebody who would know about it, they would be connected to public safety. In other words, one of us. The only other options were people connected to the case itself. Including the minister, there would be people affected by the incident. Or the people that committed it. In any case, there was no way an old household in a place removed from Tokyo by over 6 hours of highway travel should know about it. True. Oh. Yeah, there we go. That's the good one. Them knowing at all was already strange. My suspicions began to accumulate, like falling snow.
孫の誘拐についてお涼が述べたのはここまでだ。あんたの知りたかったことが含まれてりゃいいんだがな。あとは兄ちゃんの仕事だな。何のお仕事やってるか知らんけど、園崎家を相手にするなら相当の覚悟でやっとけよ。大石の旦那は怖いもの知らずだけどな。あれでも2、3回は襲われてる。最近は来てないけど、一時はオフの時も防塵ベストを着込んでたんだ。
Yikes!
ええ、忠告ありがとうございます。気をつけることにします。
標準語が流暢。
Oh man, the good music cut out before it got good.
兄さんは東京とかの人？
え？それが何か？
Investigators were always close to danger. It was best not to divulge any information on myself.
兄さんのお仕事だけどさ、ひょっとして警視庁の公安部の人ってことある？
That's none of your business. I couldn't remain silent here. It would be the same thing as admitting it.
え？まさか。
こっから旦那からもらった金の範囲には入らないんだが、兄さんとは今日宅を囲んだ仲間だからな。サービスってことで話してやるよ。お涼から誘拐の話が出た後、もう一つ話題が出たんだ。
Ooh, do tell. Another topic that Oreo brought up. And right before he told me this, Sato-san asked if I was from the Metropolitan Public Safety Division. In other words, what those two things meant caused a chill to run up my spine.
そんででな、大臣の孫さらったのを調べるために東京からはるばる公安の捜査官が派遣されてくるっちゅう話だ。
公安の捜査官？
大臣の孫の誘拐な、うかつにゃ大ごとにできゃんってことで、警視庁の公安部が独自で調べとるっちゅう話だ。はっ、大行なこったの。どうした？
Rika, who had been drawing the entire time and was completely uninterested in the conversation up until now, looked at Oreo with an interested face as soon as the topic of public safety came up.
警視庁が来たのですか？
リカちゃまは警視庁も知ってなさるんかい。えらいの。
Oh, I
誰
see.
が来たのですか？
公安のどんな奴が来よったんか。誰ぞわかる奴はおらんかいな。
It's probably the weird guy in the mask with the fake mustache. Mion's father raised his hand slightly.
新米の若造が一人と聞き及んでおります。
How would you know this?
新米？ほかほかなのですか？
うん？
Mion's dad sounds scary.
ええ、はい。新米とか。
Mion's father smiled wryly as he answered Rika's question.
ほかほかのふっかふか？
ええ。
ほかほかのふっかふか？
Rika smiled with interest. Why did Rika suddenly act interested only when it came to this topic? That was a question that apparently nobody had the answer to.
リカちゃまはその男のこと何か知っているのかな。
知んないのですよ。
There's that serious face again. She knows something. After her rather flat reply, Rika buried herself underneath Orio's futon again. But when she buried herself there, Rika no longer started drawing again. Instead, she was making an expression like she was deep in contemplation.
どうしますか、お母さん。
Mion's father posed the question. He had the type of uncouth expression on his face indicating that, given the order, he could snuff the problem out at any time.
はるばるひなみざまで来よった。しばらくはのんびりさせてやるのもよかろう。
泳がせろということでしょうか。
Mion's father asked in response. Oreo smiled thinly as she responded.
ほっといたれな。が、あんまりおいたが過ぎるようやった。そ
Uh-oh.
ん時は遠慮せんとな。
Yikes.
なめられるのはすっきゃせんね。
なんて話があったそうだ。
How do you know this?
まさかあんた、その警視庁の新米じゃないよな。
まさか。
The sensation of cold, bristling fear began to crawl its way up my back. I guess that actually would explain... Okay, that would explain if Rika was there and she took a liking to us, why she was like, go back to Tokyo, don't stay here, or you'll get wiped out. It doesn't explain how Rika was able to speak 6 octaves deeper than she normally does, so still kind of weirded out by that. This family council took place last night. It did? Oh, that was the end of the day? Wait, then how would she know? Because yesterday we went to Hinamizawa. So this took place after we visited there for the day. Oh, okay, so they weren't just leading me on, but she made the connection there. Oh, that guy was Akasaka. But that was after she gave us the warrant. This is weird. Then today, when I was dressed up as a tourist and headed towards Hinamizawa, my cover was already blown. Wait, I thought that happened yesterday. Hang on, I thought he went to the village, met the guy, went back, went to bed, got up at 9 in the morning, called the guy in, then waited till tonight to play Mahjong and stuff. No, this all happened in one day? Dang, this is a long day. My cover was already blown. When I remembered the first person I met when I got to the bus stop, I couldn't breathe. The person at the family council who expressed interest in the man being dispatched from the Metropolitan Police, Rika Furude. And then the person who was waiting for me the whole time in the bus shelter, Rika Furude. It was an unthinkable image. No, it was a delusion. When we met at that bus shelter, did Rika-chan already know my true identity? Did she know I was Akasaka, dispatched from the Metropolitan Police Department, and come to meet me? Then, including Mayor Kimiyoshi, every villager that I met, everybody knew but just pretended not to? Because Oreo had given instructions not to interfere? Thinking about it logically, it didn't seem possible. I met quite a number of people. If there's people that are good at acting, then there's people who are bad at hiding things. If there was that many people, then there should have been somebody among them who knew that I was from public safety and couldn't hide their hostility. However, I didn't feel any presence like that. But then, even still, why did Oreo tell them to leave me alone? Was it because they were careless about it? It would only raise more suspicion? Or was it because they believed a rookie like me wouldn't be able to find anything? Yeesh, Akasaka's a coward. I recalled that strange voice, which could only make me believe Rika-chan had been possessed. That unknown entity, no matter how you looked at it, knew my true identity from the get-go. And then, how did it warn me again? That's right. It warned me to hurry up and go back to Tokyo. Instead of the realistic worry that the Onikafuchi Guardians had discovered my identity, the absurd worry brought on by the unknown girl struck with me once more. What exactly was that girl? What was that thing that I would eventually regret? That mysterious girl, Rika Furide. Let's stop this. Everything I was thinking of right now is merely conjecture. Tomorrow, first thing in the morning, I'll report everything I heard right now to HQ and await further orders. There was no mistaking that the possibility the Onikafuchi Guardians were related to this case was there. And that fact that my cover was blown meant that I was in a precarious position. But as everybody at HQ was already extremely busy, they might not be able to spare the support. If they know that they're responsible, then they can divert other things and be like, okay, we don't need to keep investigating these other areas, though.
もういいかい？よければ好きなところまで送るよ。
あ、すみません。では、お会いした元の駅までお願いします。
A rural road where even a streetlight was rare. I couldn't see anything. I wasn't aware of anything but the asphalt that was lit up by the headlights. Outside of that light, was it simply darkness? Or was there something lurking there waiting to strike? I think I had drew the short straw here. I wanted to go back to Tokyo. For some reason, the voice of the girl warning me to go back to Tokyo still lingered in my head. Oh, and here we are. Higurashi when they cry. Are we gonna get new tips? Yeah, investigation runs around. What's in the box? And the glint in the demon's eye. Let's go. Mahjong Prodigy showed off your skills. Well, we did more than that. Alright, we'll go for the tips, and then that'll be it. Investigation runs aground. Second one has blood in it. Let's go.
昨日銀座の料亭でお会いしてね。そういう話が出たんだよ。
別室の謁見でしょう。連中、公安に干渉しすぎですよ。あまり迎合すると悪い洗礼を残しますね。
犬飼大臣は公安の動きに不快感をあらわにしているらしい。多分月曜の町議で次官からその旨の話が出るんじゃないかと思う。参ったな。
次官へは局長級に話つけてもらうしかないですよ。給料を多くもらってる人の当然の仕事ってことで。
まあそうなると局長からは絶対に大臣脅迫の物証を求められるよ
な。あの人たまにどっちの味方か分かんなくなりますね。うちらの味方しなくてどうすんのっての。
まあ多分大臣を経由しての圧力だと思ってるけどね。俺が時間室で油汗かいて時間稼ぐ間に調査進めてもらうしかないよな。全身の汗絞られて絞りかすになっちゃうかもしれないけどな。でどうなの調査の進行は。
期待してた濃厚なラインがことごとく外れて正直途方に暮れてます。
最近の大臣発言をまとめるとひなみ沢ダムの計画の話が目立つっていう報告を聞いたけど、それはどうなの？
目立つっていうか本当に微細な程度の違和感ですね。たまたま県議連でのスピーチだったから時事ネタを話しただけかもしれないし。
確か地元団体が過激に抵抗してるってやつだっけ？鬼ヶ淵死守同盟。確か赤坂君に調べてもらってたよね。
僕は連中には今回の事件は起こせないと踏んでいます。ですが疑わしいところのほとんどが真っ白な以上疑いの枠から外すわけにはいかないかもですね。赤坂君からはその可能性は否定できないとの軽い報告は受けています。
なら調べてみる価値はあるんじゃないの？しらみつぶしなんだから残る疑わしい団体がそこ一つならやるしかないでしょ。
まあ調べる団体はそこだけじゃないんですがね。鬼ヶ淵と同じ程度のレベルで疑わしい団体になるともう相当の数になりますよ。人手も時間も残業代も全然足りません。
赤坂君からさ、もうちょっと詳しく聞いてみてよ。俺はちょっと要注意に感じるけどな。その
彼、村人とうまく接触できたって連絡してきました。現地の警察とも連携できてるみたいですね。
赤坂君との連絡密にしてください。それで彼からの情報が引っかかるようであれば、増援を送ることもありということで。
Oh, we definitely have stuff that merits investigation.
わかりました。
Cool. Let's go.
すいません、片岡市長。局長からお電話です。こっちに回しますか？
ああ、いい。そっち行きます。もしもし。
Oh, I bet that's them getting the call from him. What's in the box? What's in the box? Boop, 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 boop. Do you believe that there are choices in life? There are many people who lament the following. If there only existed points in life where there were clear choices to make, we would be able to scrutinize those carefully and make decisions that would lead us to a better future. Every time I hear people lament as such, I cast it off in as a rather trivial worry. Even if you were given a clear choice, it wouldn't be meaningful at all, and there wouldn't be any such path to a better future. Is this hard to understand? Then let's pretend that in front of you there are two strange boxes. In other words, you have two clear choices. Do you open the red box or the blue box? A lot of things would be uncertain even with that choice, wouldn't they? If you don't have the option of opening neither, then your choice boils down to the natural impulse of opening the box that holds the better result for you. Then after examining the shape and features of each and pondering a great many things, you'll have to pick either the red or the blue. If this was you, which box would you open? Red or blue? If you were to go by the traditional meanings, then red would be a dangerous, threatening color. However, that doesn't automatically mean that it would be calm and relaxing inside the blue box either. In fact, it might even be that the colors are a trap to make you wary of the red box and have you open the blue. A trap? Could it be that the contents of the box aren't a reward, but rather a penalty? See, now you're at a loss. You're so conflicted over the choice between red and blue that you've started wishing that there was an option to open neither and just leave. But there isn't. You have to open either the red box or the blue box. Oh, I forgot to say this, but if you choose one box, the other will disappear. So you'll never know the contents of the box you didn't open. I'll just put that rule at the end there for you. Now, why don't you choose the red box or the blue box? It's alright. You won't lose anything by picking either one. Come on now. Oh. Let's do a quick save, shall we? Uh-oh. It's not letting me save. I mean, if I have to choose... Okay, here's the thing. I'm going Kirby Air Ride rules. Blue boxes have stat boosters, but red boxes can have the legendary parts to Hydra and Dragoon. We're going red box. Have you thought about it? In the end, you chose this color, didn't you? As soon as you chose, the other box disappeared. So you can give up on the contents of that one, okay? That's the rule. Now open up the box you chose. Inside the box there was a piece of caramel. I know you're a little disappointed. Well, that's only natural. No matter how you look at it, it looks like you drew the dud. The correct box might have had a bar of chocolate in it for all you know. No, in fact, something incredible like a pair of tickets to Hawaii might have been in there. But even if you wanted to verify that, the other box has already disappeared. There's no way you can check now. But if you think about it from an optimistic point of view, just maybe the other box was empty and this box was the winner. After being satisfied, or perhaps not, with such a cheap prize, you pop it into your mouth and start chewing it happily. So what do you think in the end? If you were given a second chance, would you try to open the other box? But unfortunately, the chance to choose between the red box or the blue box has come and gone, never to be seen again. The chance to change your selection will never come. Don't your parents often say, every choice you make in life only happens once, so choose carefully? See, choices aren't that great after all. Aren't you a little disillusioned now? No, I'm not disillusioned. Caramel's great. I'm happy with that. Could have been worse. It could have been 1,000 rat corpses. The glint in the demon's eye. Alright, this is going to be an exciting last one, I think.
はい。それで、お通夜が明日の午後6時からになりまして、告別式があさってのお昼、12時から13時までになりまして、会場は沖宮セレモニーホールになります。
か。池澤助役のお孫さんの葬式じゃ。何にも挨拶なしってわけにもいかんね。
Uh-oh. That's not good.
みよ、代わりに出てえな。
うん、了解。喪服で行く？香典はいくらくらい？
学校の服でえんね。前のボタンちゃんと止めてくんねよ。香典は5万。
Wow, 100,000 yen, big spender. It's $1,000.
世話になったかな。
Mion quietly whistles in awe at the exorbitant amount of money her grandmother was offering.
池澤さんはな、沖宮の事務所長だった頃からしっかりした人だったね。
Ikezawa?
役人は挨拶って言っても
Hanako's dad.
絶対に玄関までしか来ん。でもな、池澤さんはわしがお茶を勧めるといっつも上がってくれて、ちゃんと話を聞いてくれた。人の話を最後まで聞く、本当に鏡みたいな人だったんね。
The two guests made a show of nodding, making it clear they were paying attention as Oreo reminisced. The sight of them trying not to get on Oreo's bad side was humorous enough to elicit laughter from Mion occasionally.
で、池澤助役のお孫さんはいくつで亡くなったんね。
11歳だそうで。
Oh no, the poor kid. Oreo closed her eyes and shook her head lightly, lamenting the loss of such a young life.
確か孫は一人だ言うてんな。かわいそうにな。親より先に死ぬほどの親不孝あるねな。
ばっちゃんも他人には優しいね。
Well, yes, but actually no.
私やシオンが死んだら同じように悲しんでくれる？
If you died, yeah.
アホん抜かすんでね。演技でもねすったなんとシャラーあったく。
Well, Shion's alive in this timeline, alright. Having got the reaction she expected, Mion cackled. The two guests, unsure if they were supposed to laugh alone, instead forced awkward smiles.
それでは本日は失礼いたします。では明日の夕方5時にお迎えに参りますんで、よろしくお願いいたします。ではごめんくださいませ。
After bowing their heads repeatedly, the guests left by the front door. Mion saw them off, waving her little hand goodbye.
帰ったよ。お役人もばっちゃのご機嫌伺いに大変だね。不法なんか電話でいいと思うのにね。
Well, it was true that Oreo Sonozaki was a central person for both her relatives and the residents of Hinamizawa village as a whole. As a voting bloc, they numbered in the several thousands. It wasn't hard to imagine the mayor would try to pander to her. Unlike Mion, however, Oreo was looking up longingly at the sky from the veranda.
どうしたの？猛録した？
Wow, Mion!
誰のお孫さんであろうと気の毒だのう思ったんよ。
Saying that, she let out a deep sigh. Mion was let down, as normally her grandmother would have scolded her for her attitude.
みよ、俺例の大臣の孫さらわれてからどのくらいになる？
4日かな。
Oreo let out another deep sigh.
旧敵の孫とはいえ気の毒だな。
そう。
十分気はせいたんろ。そろそろ終わりにしちゃれな。
Yikes! Okay. The playful expression drained from Mion's face, leaving behind a stern one. And then, as if to ascertain Oreo's will, looked into her eyes. Oreo, expressing her intention with only those eyes, looked back into Mion's.
お茶が欲しんで頼んでな。さっきのチョコレートも食べといね。
Mion gave a small nod, then turned around.
シミコさん、いますか？ばっちゃんに紅茶入れてあげてください。
From far away, a voice responded in the affirmative. Mion, after confirming she'd been heard, picked up the phone and began dialing.
あ、もしもしミオンだけど。うん。うちのお父さん、います。
Well, that got real dark. Goodness me. Alright, well, that is all the time we have for today's stream, everybody. We finished 2 more chapters, which is pretty awesome. We probably only have a couple more left. I will most likely be streaming this on Friday at the usual 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then Saturday, not Sunday, we'll be continuing Super Mario Galaxy 2. No Sunday stream, because that is Easter, and I don't stream on Easter. Thanks for joining in. I hope you guys have a great rest of your night, and God bless everybody.